The arena was a living monument to alien supremacy, an intricate lattice of shimmering metal and organic matter that pulsed as though it had a heartbeat. The audience of 10,000, composed entirely of the Xel'Kor species, filled the sky terraces with a low, rumbling hum. Somewhere between a chant and a vibration, their approval or disapproval conveyed through resonance rather than words. From the central platform, the current champion of the Xel'Kor, a towering being named Vracath, flexed his 6 arms, each ending in taloned appendages sharp enough to pierce steel. He was a living nightmare, bred and trained for combat since hatching from the translucent pod that the Xel'Kor used for reproduction. Every inch of him exuded strength, a perfect fusion of muscle and alien biotechnology that humans could hardly comprehend. And then there was her. Captain Celine Drake of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet, standing on the same platform, looked impossibly small by comparison. Her armor was sleek, lightweight, and human standard, not augmented with biotech enhancements or alien muscle grafts. Her eyes, a piercing steel gray, scanned Vracath as if she were reading the instructions to a puzzle. She wasn't afraid. Fear was a luxury humans could ill afford, and Celine had learned to discard it in the void of space. The Xel'Kor announcer's resonant voice vibrated through the arena. Champion versus the challenger. Let the trial commence. A bell rang, or rather, a soundwave pulse that only the human ear could barely detect. Vracath lunged first, a blur of claws and sheer mass. But Celine had anticipated it. Her movements were precise, economical, and almost mathematical. With a subtle sidestep, she used the momentum of his charge to unbalance him, redirecting his weight into the nearest wall. The audience gasped, or the closest approximation a human could perceive. Silence fell across the terraces for a fraction of a second, then a low vibration of murmurs swept through them. The Xel'Kor were not used to seeing one of their champions fail in such an unceremonious manner. Celine didn't pause. She had trained for this, not just in combat but in observation, pattern recognition, and exploiting weaknesses. She had studied Vracath's previous battles via holo-recordings intercepted from Xel'Kor archives. Every champion had a predictable rhythm, a way they moved that could be deciphered by someone capable of analyzing the data in real time. Humans excelled at that. With a few more steps, Celine delivered a sequence of strikes so fast that even the high-speed optical sensors of the Xel'Kor couldn't follow them. Vracath barely had time to adjust before his 6 arms were pinned, his talons clanging uselessly against reinforced gauntlets designed for maximum leverage. One final motion, a twist of his wrist, and a sudden lock, and the champion was on the ground, incapacitated, unable to move. It had taken seconds. The arena erupted, not with the expected approval, but with shocked disbelief. To the Xel'Kor, their champions were untouchable, genetically perfected warriors who had dominated every challenger for centuries. Humans, they believed, were weak, fragile, and slow. And yet, here was Celine, standing alone, having toppled their apex predator in a display of intellect, precision, and sheer will. The beginning of a revolution. It hadn't always been like this. Humanity had spent decades hiding from the Xel'Kor. After first contact, the aliens made it abundantly clear Earth was insignificant. Any attempt at resistance was met with overwhelming force. The first fleet sent to negotiate, or to assert humanity's sovereignty, was obliterated before it even entered Xel'Kor space. Celine had grown up in that environment, in the shadow of fear. She had watched her friends, her siblings, vanish in skirmishes they didn't stand a chance of winning. But she had also noticed something the Xel'Kor didn't: their reliance on predictable strength and aggression. Every human defeat had been orchestrated not because humans were inherently weak, but because the Xel'Kor underestimated intellect and adaptability. And that underestimation was humanity's greatest weapon. By the time Selene was assigned as captain of the expeditionary force, she had already spent years devising a strategy that leveraged human ingenuity against alien might. She had trained her crew not just in conventional combat, but in observation, analysis, and improvisation. And now, standing on the arena platform, she was the culmination of all that preparation. The middle, the game changes. The Xel'Kor Emperor, an immense being named Thryzok, observed the battle from the throne in the center of the arena. His multiple eyes narrowed as he watched Selene's movements. Impossible. He vibrated through the resonating chamber, his voice literally shaking the walls. She should not, she cannot. But Selene didn't hear him. Her mind was entirely focused on the battle at hand. Vrakatha's fall was only the beginning. Word spread immediately across Xel'Kor space. The human who bested the champion. At first, disbelief reigned. Then skepticism. And then fear. If one human could defeat Vrakath in seconds, could they topple others? Could they, against all odds, threaten the very hierarchy of the Xel'Kor? Selene's victory became a spark, igniting a series of strategic maneuvers that no one had anticipated. She wasn't just fighting brute force. She was rewriting the rules of engagement. Every mission she led exposed a flaw in Xel'Kor assumptions, their reliance on superiority, their arrogance, and their failure to anticipate human creativity. On a tactical level, her team used mobility, speed, and environmental advantage to overcome vastly superior forces. On a psychological level, she demonstrated that the Xel'Kor were fallible and that humans were unpredictable. Even the Emperor began to realize that brute strength alone could no longer secure loyalty or dominance. The climactic confrontation. The Emperor summoned Selene personally after weeks of escalating victories. She entered the inner sanctum of the throne world, a cathedral of light and organic architecture that made Earth's grandest structures seem crude. Thryzok's presence was suffocating. He radiated power, the kind that could crush mountains and annihilate fleets. "You humiliate my champions," he vibrated. "You defy the natural order. You are insignificant." Selene didn't flinch. "Order is only natural when it isn't challenged," she said. "I'm not insignificant. I'm human, and you will learn why that matters." The Emperor's 6 arms tensed. The chamber shook as he lunged, a blur of strength and rage. But Selene had prepared. With nothing but her armor, her mind, and her body, she dodged, countered, and maneuvered. Every motion was calculated, every response preemptive. The fight wasn't about strength, it was a dance of intellect and instinct. In moments, she had disarmed him, pinned one arm, and forced the Emperor to concede, not out of mercy, but out of acknowledgement. The apex predator had met something it could not predict, a human. The ending, humanity ascends. When Selene emerged from the throne world, she was no longer just a captain. She was a symbol. Across the stars, humans began to be seen differently. Not as prey, but as apex predators in their own right. A species that combined intellect, adaptability, and courage could challenge even the most biologically superior aliens. Vrakatha's defeat became a story told across galaxies, a story of respect for the species that refused to be cowed. Humanity's fleets grew not just in number, but in reputation. Other species who had suffered under the Xel'Kor began to ally themselves with humans, creating a coalition that promised to reshape interstellar politics for generations. Selene Drake, the human who defeated their champion in seconds, became more than a hero. She became the apex, a living testament to what could be achieved when fear was discarded, when intellect met action, and when one human dared to challenge the universe itself. And in the quiet moments, alone on the observation deck of her flagship, Celine looked at the stars and whispered to herself, "We are human, and this is just the beginning." The galaxy would never forget it.